What makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to the Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagilia de Ravin. Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Female Founders. Today I'm joined by Dr. Ashley Pokla, a child and adolescent psychologist, educator, and mom of four. She's also the clinical director at Sentinel Foundation and the voice behind a Pokla Founders. Ashley brings heart, honesty, and wisdom to every conversation about kids, parenting, and mental health. Good morning, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm super excited to talk to you, especially about psychology, because that's one of my favorite subjects. So what made you want to work in education, psychology, and helping kids?
I wish I could say that it's always been my dream, but actually, I really wanted to be a zoologist when I was a child. I saw
Really?
yeah, I saw a special about Jane Goodall on Reading Rainbow when I was in like second grade, and I wanted to be Jane Goodall. I wanted to live in the middle of nowhere with my like naked children running around studying animals. And we lived in Georgia at the time, and I already knew what school I would go to. Had it all planned out, and then we moved to South Carolina halfway through my 10th grade year. And what I realized was there wasn't a state school. There was no school in all of South Carolina that offered zoology. And I was a first generation college student. My parents couldn't afford to send me to school. I really had to use the state funding to go to school, which meant you had to stay in the state. And I didn't have people who knew. I didn't even find out until about 5 years ago that I could have gone to the school in Georgia since there wasn't a school in South Carolina, but I didn't know. And so I had this like mini crisis as a 10th grader of I can't be what I want to be. And there was a teaching program class, teacher cadet class, and I needed extra credits. And I was like, I'll do that. And so I did that. And I was like, I kind of like this. And there was a college program tied to it called Teaching Fellows that paid you to go to college to be a teacher. Ooh. As long as you stayed in the state. So I did that. I got accepted into it, and so I got paid to go to undergrad through that program. And I was like, I'll lean into the hardest thing you could possibly do, because if I can do that as a student teacher, then I can do anything. And so I begged to be allowed to do my student teaching experience at the alternative school that nobody wanted to be at for anything, not even the small experiences, but I wanted to do it, have that support while I was there. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with being in this super dynamic classroom of 10 to 12 high school students with varying levels of needs, varying levels of educational abilities. They're the quote unquote bad kids that get kicked out of their school, but really they're kids who face trauma, and their trauma gets the best of them. I had a girl who poured chocolate milk on my head because I asked her to sit down. It was never boring. It was always interesting. It was always taxing my creativity. It was taxing my patience. It was forcing me to learn new skills, to try new and different things. There was no guidebook. There was no perfect way to do it. And I really liked that part of it. And so I did that. That's what I did as an educator. I was a special education alternative school teacher, high school only. And then I had my oldest daughter and wasn't sure I could be the mom I wanted to be and this teacher that I had to be, this attachment figure for 10 really needy high school kids. And I like that side better. I like the managing the emotions, handling the outbursts, connecting with them, using the relationship to get them to sit down and do what they needed to do. And so I went back to school for my master's in counseling because I liked that part. That was the part that I really enjoyed. And if you think about it, that's probably what I liked best about zoology too, is those social systems that the chimpanzees had and how they interacted and how it was similar to humans, but not. And so I did my master's in counseling, had two more daughters, so three daughters, master's in counseling, did my internship at the juvenile detention center where I had some of my old students.
Why did
And
you pick that?
same reason. If I could do it in the hardest place, I could do it in any place. And I like those kids. I like, and that has been my trajectory. I like the kids that are misunderstood. I like the kids who don't trust adults. I like the challenge of not getting them to trust me, but of becoming a human being that's worth their trust. Like the only way kids who don't trust actually learn to trust you is if you genuinely are a trustworthy human being. And so it really made me grow as a person, to be what those kids needed. And I loved it. I would have stayed there and been happy, I think. But I I was talking to my supervisor. I was trying to talk on behalf of a girl that I worked with, and this girl really changed my life. I don't think she knows it. I don't think I knew it at the moment, but she was in jail. She was 15, in jail for murdering a man who was abusing.
Hmm?
Yeah, she stabbed him multiple times. He was abusing her, was trying to abuse her girlfriend, and they killed him. And he was a well liked man in the community. Nobody knew that he was doing that kind of thing. And she was struggling with all the things that come with that. Will God forgive her? Can she be the person that she wants to be while she's also a murderer? And we spent a lot of time together kind of processing that and thinking through it and talking about it. And I advocated on behalf of her to the psychiatrist who would come in, once every 2 months.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist told me that I was a lowly intern and that I didn't know what I was talking about. And my supervisor told me I just had to deal with it because in this pile, I'm at the bottom as an intern or a master's level clinician, and people with a PhD or an MD are at the top. I
Top.
went home that night and applied for
No
doctoral.
way, no, no, no. I think I know what you did.
Yeah. Um, so I went on for my doctorate immediately after. I had one more kid, my son. So I had 4 under 4 for about a month. Went through my entire doctorate while maintaining these small kids. And what I really found is, and this is what my career has been built off of, there's this there's a silo, like education lives here and psychology lives here and parenting lives over here, but there's so much knowledge that all three of those silos have, that if they just shared a little bit of that knowledge, all of their jobs would be so much easier, and the kids that they care for and care about would be so much better off. And so the way I view my role as a psychologist, as a parent, as an educator, is to break down those barriers and to build those bridges, from these different viewpoints or knowledge bases, to with the overarching goal of supporting youth and the adults who care for them and care about them.
This is amazing. I like how you did it. It's like, you gonna dare to say that to me? I'll show you. And if you give me a few more years, I'll show you.
Mhm.
But you said that she changed your life. How did she change your life? Because she's 15, she's been abused, she's in jail, probably gonna be there for a very long time. How did that change your life?
Yeah, so she opened my eyes. She opened my eyes to just how broken the system was. Working in these spaces, I knew it to some extent. Like I knew intrinsically that my classroom was mostly black and brown boys, and that statistically that doesn't make sense. So I saw some of that, but I really didn't start to see just how broken the systems are when it comes to the support that they provide or don't provide, until of my work with her and seeing how much the system failed her. Then I started to realize, wait, this other girl that I work with that comes in, she's in jail for a week, she goes home, she comes back to jail for a week, and she's in on, and that doesn't happen in Ohio anymore. They're a little bit more aware at this point. But she was in for prostitution. And the reality is, a teenager can't be a prostitute. If somebody is paying them for sex, they're being raped. They're being trafficked. They're probably not the one holding the money. And so
Yeah.
it started to open my eyes to the fact that just because DCFS is involved, just because law enforcement is involved, doesn't mean that that child's getting what they need. And to have somebody that is at the height of their field, this psychiatrist who doesn't get it either and is there to be like the helper, it just showed that my trust in the system was misplaced. And I recognize that I was more educated and more aware of the system than what most parents are.
Right.
And so a lot of parents trust the system. A lot of individuals trust the system and think, if I call and report
They'll
something,
help.
things will be done and the kid will be better. And that just isn't the truth. There has to be people that know what they're doing and people that can connect those systems together. And so I took that upon myself to be the connector of systems because nobody else was doing it.
And you are right. It's one thing that I remember a few years ago. There's a mom, and she has a daughter, but the dad didn't really want the kid, and then for some reason tried to kill the kid. And she used the car. I mean, he was using the car, and then put the kid head, opened the door, put the kid, and he was slapping the door and trying to kill her that way. And that child went through a trauma as a baby, very young age. He ended up in jail, don't get me wrong, but the mom didn't know how to deal with it. And I ended up meeting her. And she has a girl the same age as my son that is unable to talk, unable to potty train, still wearing a diaper. She cannot, the only way she can do anything is by screaming. If she's hungry, she screams. If she's sad, she screams. She's happy, she screams. Whatever she's doing, she's screaming. And the first day she came to my house, she brought her daughter, like, hey, my daughter can play with your son. Yeah, sure, why not? And I'm like, what the heck is she doing? Why is she screaming? I couldn't understand it. And that night I took the time and I started making research about it and trying to kind of use this. At the time I only had starting my master. So I was kind of like, okay, let me try to learn what's going on here. Why is she keep on screaming? And it's kind of funny. That girl lived with me for 1 year while I was in Texas. And I took that challenge when I listened to you talking because I felt like the mom new boyfriend probably wouldn't be patient enough with that girl. And the mommy also didn't have the patience with that girl. Because every time she screams, I can see her frustration in front of me. She didn't want to slap her. She didn't want to do anything bad to her. But you can see it like, girl, can you just be normal? That type of thing. And I was like, why don't you just, since my son is at home and I work from home, why don't you just leave her with me in the morning when you go to work? She's like, really? I'm like, yeah, why not? So within that 1 year, I potty trained her. She took her own shower and she was able to talk. When like the first time she said, hey, mommy, the mom started to cry. For me, it was a big thing. But now, right now, she's 10 years old. She's still in special needs school, but the person she can talk, she can pick up the phone, she can have a conversation with you. But one thing I realized is actually, she was one of the smartest person I ever met. That girl can do multiplication by thousands. That girl can write words. I will pull words on her and I'm like, can you write this? And she'll just write it. I'm like, hell, she knows how to do that. She's smart for 3 years old. She was really smart. But no one was patient with her enough to teach her to do anything with her. And the mom was so scared of going to the system. And I couldn't understand why until I started making research. And I'm like, they might just take her away.
Yeah.
But they're doing good now.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. It's so, and that's what I see with the kids that I work with, where they're labeled as the bad kid, they're labeled as the problem, they're labeled as angry and aggressive. And similar to the girl you're talking about, if we could just like, once you break down that outer barrier, once you get through the screaming, once you get through the angry and the throwing and those kinds of things, there's a whole other child underneath of that nobody took the time or had the energy. Like, I'm not blaming mom. Having difficult kids, it's hard to be the one that breaks through that because you are dealing with the everyday in and out. But once you can break through that, it's a child that has been hidden, that's never been seen, that's never been known. And for as soon as they start to feel seen and known as a whole person and not just as this outside shell, that's when you see the progress. That's when you see change. That's when you see growth. But our systems aren't made to get through that. It's quick, push them through, get done with them, on to the next one, get your insurance payment, and move on.
Yeah, but you know, one thing that I realized, a lot of people, usually when someone says, I'm going to call child support for a parent, I say, you need to think twice before you do that. Because you always, don't get me wrong, sometimes, yes, child support can help, but sometimes it's not the truth. Because child support will only make things worse. And not only that, they remove the kid from a parent that taking care of their kids very well, and to a family that unable to do that, or to a home where there's so many kids in that home that one child can't really get the care that one child needs. So I always tell people, be careful before you make that phone call, because you can destroy an entire family with just that one call.
Yeah, so as a mandated reporter, there are times I have to make a call, even when I don't necessarily think it will be the most helpful. And for those of you who have to do that or who are thinking about it, I found a lot of power in having the parents call with me, because it shows Children Family Services that the parent wants to change, the parent wants to make a difference. And so oftentimes if I have the parents call with me, they get resources and referrals to therapy, to family therapy, to things like that. And they don't get that surprise visit to their home where they feel judged. And to be honest, I've worked with really, really good children family services in some counties and really, really bad ones in other counties. And it's kind of the luck of the draw for which worker you get and how trauma informed they are. But there are, those of us that are teachers, that are counselors, you're a mandated reporter. If you don't make that call, you're legally liable. But there are ways to make that call that tend to lead to more support for families. And more often than not, it's just that the family needs support. Like they just need somewhere to let off their steam and their frustration, and they need support in how to interact with their child.
Child. And you're right with that. So you do need that sometimes. But I think like I guess where I was going with that is sometimes people just see something, they think that's what they saw, but in reality it's not what it is. And let me give you an example. I was raised where my ass get beat up every single day. And yeah, I deserve it. Now that I grew up, I realize it. I deserve every single one of them. What can I say? I was a kid. I do bad things. When I say bad things, it's not really bad things. It's don't touch the water, but I touch it anyway. And I was the kid, if you put the clogs on the table, you tell me don't touch it. I still touch it, and I still drink the clogs. And then you're going to ask me how many times I drink clogs? Many times. How many times I drink gasoline? Many times. I end up in the hospital. I hated milk. So when I drink them, they have to go inside me to clean me, because I will not drink the milk to throw it all out. I was that kid. So when we were raised as children, my grandpa, if I do something bad in school, slap my ass. That was okay, right? Back in the time, no one would call anyone, make any phone calls. But nowadays, if you have a kid, the kid do something bad, you slap the kid in the ass, it's a problem. For me, the way I seen it, don't get me wrong, don't abuse your child. That's your kid, love your kids. But there's time you need to be the parent. You need to be a little bit tough. Hey, no, what you're doing is completely wrong. That's not gonna work out. Don't do it. But some kids, even if you say that, they're not gonna listen. You need to do a little bit of a slap. But again, someone might see and they think you're abusing your kids. You're not really abusing your kids. That's what I guess that's what I mean by it. It's before you make that phone call, make sure you understand what was going on first.
Yeah.
And I remember I was watching a YouTube video where that kid called 911 because he was throwing racks in their neighbor windows and broke one of them, and their mom slapped him in the ass, and he called 911. When he called 911, the cops show up, said, asking what was going on. He said that he was doing that, and mom slapped. And then the cop said, you should be happy your mom did that, and walk away. For me, it was the best video I ever seen. But some people might have just took that kid away and said what you did was wrong. Sometimes parents did things I don't think they look for in a bad way, and I think parents know what's best for the kids. I'm not saying every parent by any chance. Some parents are just bad, but some of them just want the best for the kids. And if you don't create discipline in the household, then that child will not grow up the way it's supposed to, and then we're gonna end up with more children in the system that we don't want to. I guess that's my point of view on that.
I think that you made a really great point, and it's something that I see as I work with teenagers, especially. that the move towards gentle parenting, where it's not only is it no slap in the butt, but it's also no harsh words, no anything. It's all about the child and how they feel, and the child and how they feel does matter. But when you have parents who are fixing all of their kids' problems, when you have parents who are protecting their child from all the uncomfortable feelings and from all the uncomfortable things, and putting their child's not physical safety, but like psychological and emotional safety first and foremost, what I'm seeing happen is kids aren't building resilience. They're not learning how to cope with difficult feelings because their parents make it so they don't have difficult feelings. And then when they're teenagers and they have those social interactions that lead to difficult feelings, it's the worst that the child's ever felt, and they don't know how to handle it. And so then they're showing depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation for things that, like, as adults, we're thinking to ourselves, that's normal developmental like experiences. Why are you responding like this? But the child is in emotional and psychological distress, but it's emotional and psychological distress that, had they had the opportunity to learn how to cope developmentally appropriately, they'd be able to handle. It would be a bad day and not a bad year. And so there's something to be said for finding that balance between, let's not punch our kid in the face and let's not save them from all pain. Somewhere in the middle there is what we call good enough parenting, and pretty much anything in that continuum is better than what we have on these two extremes, and your child develops appropriately.
Yes, because eventually you have to look at it that way. They need to leave home. So are you not gonna get them ready to leave home? Because I always look at myself. I went through a lot when I left home. I had to find my own place on earth.
Mm-hmm.
What is that for me? And a lot of things, a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of things I didn't know. They just now a lot of kids, if you don't prepare them mentally, they are not ready to handle all this thing. That's when they end up in the drugs, they end up in the alcohol there, because they're trying to cope with a lot of things they don't know how to deal with. For me, we start at home. Do something about it. Help them. Allow them to deal with them. I know sometimes we don't know how to do it. That's the reason why we have psychologists. We have different kind of people. Even if you don't want a psychologist, you can go with something a little bit lower than that to kind of help the kid. And a lot of time too, you take you time as a parent to just be there. I mean, like, that's all it takes, really. Like, just a conversation with the kid. Hey, honey, what's going on? Let's talk about it. Um, that's all it really takes. One advice my mom gave me when I gave birth is, be my son's best friend. Learn when to be the mom, learn when to be the best friend. And I try my best to do that, both of them. I do not like the beating part, because I didn't like when my grandpa make my ass sore. That hurt. I don't like it. I like more like a conversation. Let's talk about it. And if my son says something to me, I didn't like it, it hurt, I will tell him, hey, what you just said to me, I didn't like it. And you should say it to somebody else. And as a woman, that's one thing I teach my son, is the fact that when you say something, certain things you don't say to a woman. And if you go out there, you say it to a girl, it's like you're disrespecting me. And don't ever do that. And those are the things that I kind of teach him every day. Like, you have to respect women, you have to respect your elder, and you have to respect the baby that just born, regardless, because that's still a human being. So I think we just need to be the parent. And I know it's tough. I will not lie about it. If you need help, reach out for help. But first, try your best as a parent. But you know what? When you talk about you love helping children, is that the reason why that's getting you to start working with Sentinel Foundation? And what exactly led you to that work, and what have you learned from it so far?
So, Sentinel Foundation is an anti-trafficking, anti-child exploitation organization, and I actually started with a different organization prior to that called Umphalis that got joined with Sentinel. And the way I fell into it is, it wasn't long after I had worked with that young lady that I was telling you about. I was starting to see some of the problems in the systems, and I had a friend who's now a colleague, and he was talking about this group that he was working for and how they went overseas and they rescued in quotation marks, all these kids in like Peru or something. And I was like, cool, where are they now? And he looks at me and he goes, what? I was like, where are the kids now? Like you remove them from a bad place. Where'd they go? And he goes, well, to an orphanage. And I go, was it a good orphanage? And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, like, did you remove them from one not great space and put them in another not great space? Or are they actually like thriving? And he goes, I don't know. And then we're done talking for that day. He comes back to me a couple of months later and he goes, I couldn't find any of them. I went to the orphanage. I called the orphanage. The kids are all gone. And so we started looking into the numbers, and it's about 80 to 90% of children who are trafficked or in an exploitative situation that end up back in a trafficking or exploitative situation within 3 years. So the recidivism, the traumatization is so high because they were already vulnerable. They were taken advantage of. They were rescued, removed. They weren't given the supports that they needed. Their caregivers weren't given the supports that they needed. And they were now more vulnerable because of the experiences that they had, and their situation, their environment really hadn't changed that much. So now they were even more likely to be exploited. And so, and like most victims of human trafficking don't recognize they're a victim. They think they're just making hard choices. Yeah, I guess you can have sex with me if I can have a couch to sleep on, or if I can have food to eat, or you're my boyfriend and I love you and you want me to sleep with your friend and you treat me nicer when I do. Okay, I'll do that. They use teenage brains and use what they know about child development to their betterment. So anyways, we were looking at all of that, and he goes, we should build a residential center. And again, remember, I've lived in all of these child serving agencies, and I know how broken the system is, and I know residential settings are really expensive to fund, but they also often, because of where they get their funding, they have to prove that they're working to keep getting their grant funding. But that means that they're just pushing kids through, even though the kids aren't getting better. And these are super complex cases when we're talking about trafficking and exploitation victims. And so I just kindly was like, I don't know that that's the best idea. He goes, well, what would you do? And so I wrote a little plan of what I would do. And then he was like, you're hired. Make that happen. So that's how I got involved, was just highlighting how.
Wait, that's the company now. So that is the company now.
So that's my part of the company. That was Umphalis, and that's my part of the company. So Sentinel was originally rescue only, mostly overseas. And my role when I came in was, cool, let's think about what happens to the kids after. Let's check out where we're sending them before we rescue them, so that we know that where we're sending them is appropriate. And if it's not, if they need some skills or they need some strategies, let me train their staff. Let's maintain this relationship and make wherever we're sending them that's good enough even better. And so that's really my role, is just making sure we're thinking about the kids at all times, making sure we're following up. I do a lot of psychological assessment to understand how the trauma is impacting the child and to help the parents or the caregivers better support the child. What I noticed as I did a lot of psychological assessment is that by the time a child was referred for a psychological assessment, because it's expensive and insurance doesn't like to pay for it, oftentimes it's foster kids or adopted kids, and they wait a really long time to refer them because, again, it costs a lot of money. So they go through years of failed treatment, years of frustration, years of parents being annoyed that the kids hoarding food in their bedroom, when if they just started with the assessment, the parent would better understand, oh, they hoard food because they had food insecurity for their entire first 5 years of life. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. It just makes them feel safe to have a bag of chips under their bed. And so helping parents and caregivers understand that, helping them find the right therapists who have the right approaches. For example, kids who have early childhood trauma, they have trauma before they can speak. A lot of people would think that they don't remember it because they can't talk about it, but their brains remember it, their bodies remember it. And so they tend to have really big acting out behaviors, really big emotions, but they can't tell you why. and then they'll get sent to therapy, to talk about their trauma, but they can't talk about it. So talk therapy doesn't work for them. They need play therapy. They need somatic therapy where they're moving their body. They need to learn how to make their body feel safe, even when they don't know why they don't feel safe. They don't need to understand why. They just need to be able to catch it and ground themselves.
So now you started a Pokla Founders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what
Yeah.
that's a way to share your thoughts with parents, teaching, and also psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you start it, and what do you hope people will learn from it?
Yeah. So I started it to just fill in some of the spaces. Like I work in these spaces, I work in high acuity situations, but a lot of what I do, I have take homes that help me as a parent. And so it's really just a place for me to put those thoughts and to put those ideas. And as I build out materials, for example, a document on how to help your child navigate grief. I get a lot of phone calls from schools, from teachers that are experiencing something stressful in the moment and they just need like a one pager to hand to parents. And so as I build those things, I just put them on my website so that other people can use them, because if I'm making it, it might as well be something that people can access and can use. And so originally I thought it would be more of like the homeschooling thing, because I started homeschooling my kids 3 years ago, but it's just kind of morphed into when I'm sitting with something heavy, I put it into writing. It really helps me more than anything. But like, for example, I just got done testing a family of 8 kids who were abused by their dad. And it was a really heavy couple of days. And I've been sitting with two different things. I've been sitting with just how resilient that family is, and how we get to that resilience. And then I've also been sitting with the fact that we label people with the word victim and then survivor and then thriver, and we take away the rest of what makes them them, and all they're defined by is that negative experience, when there's so much more to who they are. And what that turns into as I start writing it, I don't know, but there will be blog posts in the next couple of weeks about those two things, because I can't get it out of my head. I'm sitting with it. It's heavy.
Now that's my next question. You mean like seeing all these things can be play with the mind sometimes? I know you're a psychologist, don't get me wrong. And I love what you do, by the way, because I don't know if I don't know if you know, my field is also in psychology, and that's something that I really love talking about. My way of looking at psychology sometimes can get a little bit different than most people. That's just how my brain functions. But when you take all that in, it can be a lot for one person to deal with. So I know you like to write, but what are the things that you use to cope with all these things? Because if you see, let's say you see 5 families in a week, that's like 5 different problems you have to deal with yourself.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to engage in self-care. Actually, I'm excited to share this. I just published a book 2 days ago, focused on self-care. It's actually a workbook / planner / prompted journal. So it's about 50 pages of self-care activities. And not self-care like how we talk about self-care, where it's like, go take a long bath, take the day off work, these things that are
But
really
that's self-care, right?
I mean, yes, it is. But it's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to make things better. You take a mental health day off from work, you have to go back to work the next day. And whatever was bothering you before your mental health day is still going to be there that next morning. So while it is a piece of self-care, it's not all of self-care. And I think a lot of times we think of self-care as when I'm as burnt out as I can possibly be, that's when I use self-care. That's not how it works. The reality is you need good self-care as your baseline. So the book talks about the basics. You need enough sleep. You need to drink water. You need to eat healthily. Those things that just keep your body and brain functioning optimally. Go outside, get some sunshine, some fresh air. That should be happening every day. Like general, just basic self-care. should occur before you feel burnt out. And then you need that self-awareness piece to know when you're starting to feel burnt out. And that's when you start doing the interventions. For me personally, I'm really bad about remembering to do the little things. I find mini moments really helpful when I remember to do them. So taking that minute between people that are in my office, taking a moment at the end of a meeting to just reset, taking a moment before a meeting that I'm stressed about to ready myself. When I remember to do those things, they work really well. So I actually have visual reminders in my office. There's an activity where you create your safe space and you can go there and feel calm. So I draw my safe space. That's how I do it with clients too. And I keep it on my office wall so that, I'm like, oh, that meeting was so hard. And then I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, my safe space. I'll go to my safe space for a minute. And so it reminds me to use it. But for me personally, the most helpful approach for me, and it won't be for everybody, I really like ensuring that I'm living my values every day. I take a values inventory every couple of months. And my values change a little bit here and there, but they almost always have meaningful work and connection to others as part of it. And I find that I am a much happier, more balanced human being if I engage in something meaningful and get some sort of real connection with another human being every day. And it doesn't have to be like a huge, meaningful thing. It just has to feel like something I did mattered. And it doesn't have to be paid work. It could be something with my kids. So sometimes you can get both together. But if I find that I start to feel burnt out when I'm going through the motions, when I'm inundated with busy work and administrative tasks, and I'm at my computer all day. So I didn't get the meaningful work and I didn't get the connection with other people. And my third one is usually something about like adventurousness or spontaneity. So if I'm here all day, I didn't get that either. And so I find I feel more burnt out when I'm not being purposeful with where I put my time and my energy and my attention.
But you mentioned earlier you published a book. So what's the book? What's the name of the book?
Yeah, so it's called My Inner Compass, a workbook and planner for purposeful living. And it's, like I said, it's about 50 pages that goes through different self-care activities. Some you'll love, some you'll hate. But the way I wrote it is to be really accessible to people. It actually came from a partner organization that we have in Africa, in Uganda, called ACOA. I was working with their social workers. They hear really tough stories all day, every day. They work at a sex and gender-based violence clinic. So they get victims coming in all the time, sharing their stories, and their stories are really, really difficult stories to hear. And they were asking, I was giving training on understanding children and interacting with children and managing trauma. And I was giving them tips for bringing children out of trauma. So if a child's telling you a story and they have that freeze trauma response and you can't get the rest of the story, so you can't get the information you need to actually take the parent to court or to have the parent arrested for the abuse, how do you get that child out? And it was clear that they just don't have the toolkit or the toolbox that we do here through their education. So they don't have the tools to teach the child, but they also don't have the tools for themselves when they go home to manage those stressors and to manage what they see and what they hear on a daily basis. And so they started asking for self-care strategies. And in typical Ashley fashion, I was like, well, I mean, if I'm going to write it for them and put it down in hard copy for them, I might as well just turn it into a book for everybody. And so I wrote it, and I really wanted it to be, again, accessible. I want them to understand why I'm telling them to find joy in every day, because they haven't been exposed to that, just like most people not in the therapy field haven't been exposed to that. And so each small section, it's just like a page, less than a page long, and it talks about how doing that type of activity, whether it's drinking, eating healthily, or finding joy in every day, or living purposefully, how that impacts our bodies and our brains. So it goes a little bit into the science. And then I give 2 to 3 activities under each section for people to try to do that particular type of self-care activity. And then I added at the end, so that's only like I said, it's less than 50 pages. So very accessible, written very easily to read and to follow. And it has workbook type spaces to write your thoughts. And then I did weekly prompted journal and a like a planner page where you can do your gratitude. You can set your goals for the week. You can keep track of, are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? So you can build the planner to whatever activities you want to use from the book. You don't have to use it all. You can say, I'm going to work on page 7 this week. And then you can focus on page 7. There's a space to put a reflection from the previous week. So there's 52 of those. So there's one for each week. So it lasts you a full year of just being accountable to yourself. Or if you use the last section of the book, accountable to your accountability partner, to just try. Just give it a try. Try the different things in the book. See what works for you, what doesn't work for you. My guess is everybody will find something there that's self-care related that you can use on a daily basis that doesn't cost money. Like, yeah, go get your nails done if it makes you happy, but you also can use 30 seconds to like go and splash your face with cold water to reset. Right. It doesn't always have to cost money or be time intensive.
Yeah, and for me, when I find my most peace, it's just by turning the water in the shower and just stand under it, like for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Just stand there and just let my body be in peace for a while. Mm-hmm. And that helps. You feel a lot much, oh, that is so much better. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where can they get your book, though?
So I have it on the Books by website. I did the whole self-publishing thing. It was a lot more stressful than I thought it would be. So when I finally got the green check mark not last night, but the night before, I was like, I'm just done. I'm going to turn it all on and it's done. So it was like 10:30 at night. But it's, and I can share the link with you. I can email it to you as well. But it's books.by /a-Poklar-ponders.
Congratulations on the new book. And I love what you did. Why giving it to a small group when you can give it to everybody else to use it? And you're right. Many people can really use that because, like you said, people think self-care is let me get my nails done, let me get my eyebrow done. Oh, my hair look terrible. Let's get that done too. And the paycheck is gone by the time they are done with that self-care. You did it, girl, but you're not going to be able to pay the rent this month.
Yeah, more stress now.
More stress now. Self-care, taken care of. Check mark. Rent. No money. Mm-hmm. So, many women feel like they are not good enough. And as you've been saying, even when you work with teenagers, they just feel that way, even when they are. So have you ever felt this way? And what advice would you give to women who doubt themselves?
Oh, I feel that way all the time. I think it's like a common women experience, especially a common mom experience, where it feels like nothing you do is ever good enough. And I think that goes back to the why I like the values activities so much, because I can always go back and say, but I'm living my values. Like I am doing the things that matter to me. For me personally, it's stepping back and kind of reminding myself. I'm one of those people. I'm sure it's shown up in this conversation. I don't know if you've heard the allegory of you climb one mountain and it's this hardest thing that you've ever done in your life, and you're not sure you'll ever make it to the top. And then you get to the top and you look out and there's like 4 more mountains to climb, and they're all higher than the mountain that you just climbed. And so you go and you attack those mountains. And when we're in the process of climbing those mountains and attacking those mountains, we forget all of the mountains that we already climbed. All we're thinking about is, I'm never going to get to the top of this one. This one's so far away. There's no way that I'll ever make it. And we forget that we made it through like 7 other things in the last couple of months or couple of years that we didn't think we would make it through. Yeah. And so some sort of stopping and reminding yourself of like, no, I have wins, taking the time to celebrate the things that go well. And sometimes the thing that went best for me in a day is that I actually brushed my teeth and my hair. And that's okay. That's okay for that to be the win for the day. And I think it's hard in general, but especially in today's world where there are all of these podcasts and there is all of this information out there where we see other people doing amazing things that we didn't even think about or that we thought was way far in the distance, that it's hard to celebrate the wins that we have. It's hard to remember that our story is our story, and that those other people's stories, while they might serve as a way to kind of motivate us or inspire us, it doesn't mean that our story has to be like their story or that we'll get to the same end place in the same ways as they did.
And we don't. And I think with social media and everything that's going on in the world right now, people are just looking at it like, oh my goodness, she's doing so well. She's just starting her business. She's already driving a Mercedes Benz. She bought a house. She's doing all that. My advice I always tell people is that try not to look what's on the outside. Because people do fake it until they make it. Just because they show it on social media, that doesn't mean that's the truth for real. So some of them are struggling to even put food on the table.
Yeah, you see my story and you didn't see me working at my child's daycare center, holding other people's babies for like 10 hours a week so that I could afford to pay for them to go to daycare so that I could go to school. You didn't see, the years of coming home after all my kids were in bed so that and working 12-hour days at my internship site, getting paid, I think I got paid $20,000 that year as a doctoral level intern, working 3 12-hour days, an hour away from my home so that I could be home and be present for the other 2 days. Like there's a lot of sacrifice that people don't show on those spaces. And there's a lot of places that I'm surprised I didn't quit. I'm surprised that I kept going. I think at that point, so much money was into my school that quitting wouldn't make sense.
It's not an option anymore.
Yeah, but I was in some pretty significant debt. I was taking out loans to pay my kids' childcare so that I could go to school. Like there's growth doesn't happen without some sort of discomfort. And I think a lot of times people stop leaning in as soon as they start to feel the discomfort. And then they're frustrated that they don't see growth. But you're not going to find growth by sitting in what feels comfortable.
Life itself is not comfortable, actually. I'm literally, if it was a straight line where you walk straight, it would have been boring because, think about it. Your life, you're doing the exact same thing every single day. Like, nothing changed. It would have been boring. So that's the reason why I guess you have the free will to do whatever you want to do. But you can take that free will and do something really good with it. And then it's going to get hard. It's going to be tough. There's time you're not going to have even water to drink. And there's time you don't even know how you're going to put clothes on yourself or your children the next day or for school for anything else. It will happen. But you know what? If you keep on pushing forward, if you keep on believing in yourself, don't compare yourself with other people because everyone went to hell to get where they need to be. Unless you were born rich, of course, that might be something different. But you go through the things you need to go in life. You just keep on pushing forward and don't stop believing. You need to find a purpose, something to keep you on going. And if you think that's going to be easy, if you get it easy for you, I guess you got lucky. Congratulations, because I know for me it wasn't easy. So, and it's still not easy because my life's still a work in progress. I'm still going, and I have a lot more to learn in this world. But another great question I wanted to ask you: if you could give one piece of advice to a woman who wants to forge their own path, either in education, psychology, advocacy, what will it be?
Yeah. So for me, the question I ask myself every time that I am in that space of like, do I take this path less traveled by? Do I take this new route, which, as you've heard, I kind of jump all over. I ask myself, do I have the capability to lean into this space? And that doesn't mean, am I an expert? It just means, do I have the capability? Do I have the intellectual skill sets to make it work? Not can I jump in and be 100%, just can I do it? at a bare minimum level? If the answer is yes, I'm leaning towards yes. And then the other question I always ask myself is, what's the worst that could happen if I do? And if the worst that could happen is I feel rejected or it doesn't work out that well, but I'm not harming anybody by doing it, then I do it. And oftentimes I find that nobody else was willing to get off of the main path to try it. I do things, and my career path has shown, like, I'm a risk taker in my career. I'm not in my general life. Like, I don't like skiing. I don't like anything up high. Like, I am the least risk taking person possible. But in my career path, I take risks regularly because everybody else is on that straight path. And I know where that's going to lead. And it's not bad. It pays well. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But nobody's going off the path. And if nobody's going off the path, whatever need I saw isn't being met because nobody's willing to take the risk to meet that need. And so if you have the capabilities and you're not going to hurt anybody by giving it a try, at least not significantly, like, yes, people hold themselves back and they like, oh, I can't do that. If I do that, then I won't be able to make what I made this past year. But I also know that as a psychologist, I could easily go and work somewhere else. I might not like the job, but I can go do that if it fails. And so don't let those fears hold you back. It truly is, will you actually harm somebody in the next month by going off that path? And if the answer is no, go off that path. See where it leads you. Worst case, you hate it and you get back on the main road. No big deal. You got some unique experiences that are going to make you a better person, and they're going to make you have better stories when you apply for your next job.
I agree with that. So I have to say I agree. Now let's go back to your book again. How can someone get a copy of it?
Yeah, so that's that website that https / books books.by /a-poklar POKLAR.ponders PONDERS.
By any chance, do you know if it's available on Amazon?
It's not available on Amazon, not through this particular publishing provider, but it is available on that website. It's my own little bookstore website. If you find me on LinkedIn, I have it on there as well. And it is $5 flat shipping fee. I think I have it priced at a little under $25.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley, for giving me that time to talk to you. And so kind of get a different perspective. I never really have a conversation with, well, I don't have conversation with psychologists all the time, but it's great to talk to someone about something that I truly love talking about, which is psychology. And I appreciate it so much for what you are doing, especially helping young girls. And I was there. I guess we all been there at one point when we were a woman, when we were a girl. So we know how it is. Some of us got it easy, some of us don't. And some of us got it the worst way possible. And we know that all of them can use some help at some point of time. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.